welcome back to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me yet again is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Kraus.
Yay, it's Wednesday! It's our first Wednesday episode.
Yeah!
We get so many questions now, we gotta split them up between 2 episodes per week. Holy crap.
Yes, thank you so much for all the engagement. If you missed the priority Q&A episode from last Monday, well, it was on Monday. You can scroll back and find that, no problem. But today we are doing nothing but standard Q&A.
Correct, yes. And most of these are from email, by the way. We're finally working through the email queue, so not all of them are from email, but most of them. So we have a lot of questions to get to, so let's get into it.
If you want to ask your question and have it answered on the show, you can email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, tweet to us at BumbleKast, comment on any YouTube video, and if you're a patron, or if you want to donate through Ko-fi, that's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. You can post anywhere on the Patreon page. You can email us through the Ko-fi donation. If you are a patron or whatever and you're on the Discord, there is a Q&A channel. There are lots of ways to ask your questions. Now, if a question has been answered on one of the FAQs over at bumbleking.com, if it has been answered in a recent episode within like the last couple weeks or so, or if it involves anything that will be covered in the Lost Hedgehog Tales, which is happening, just not soon, we're not going to answer it because we've covered this multiple times. They've already been covered, or we can't cover it. So those are the ground rules. All right? All right. Let's get to it.
All right, here we go. First question comes to us courtesy of PC the Unicorn. So, Ian, in the 30 Years Later storyline, Tails and Mina are together, which was launched off of the 25 Years Later storyline, I think. Now, I haven't read most of the issues before 160, but from what I heard from fans who have, Tails and Mina never really interacted that much, and only had one moment that could have been taken as romantic. So I'm just wondering, even though the 30 Years Later storyline is an alternate timeline of the series, is the Tails and Mina romance something you would have tried exploring / fleshing out?
No, not at all. Nobody liked the Tails Mina pairing. The only reason why I acknowledged it is that, the other writers had established it as the future canon, and there you go. That's what I had to work with. Rumor has it that it was drawn in just kind of on a whim, maybe by editorial edict as kind of a joke, that it wasn't actually in the script. But I don't know. That was well before my time. But to help ensure that it was clearly an alternate possible future, I wouldn't want to make any bridges to it. Nobody liked the pairing to begin with, so I didn't want to strengthen it at all. And Tails is 8. He doesn't need to be into any serious relationships. Puppy love, sure, but he doesn't need to be seriously romantically involved in anyone, especially someone double his age.
Well, I mean, in 30 years later, it would have been slightly more acceptable because
but if you're
30, he's 38 instead of 8.
But it's the same thing as like the Padme Anakin thing. Sure, it made a lot more sense by episode 2, but episode 1, it was like, no.
Yeah.
That place is strong with the dark side of the Force.
Yeah. Tik Tik is up next. What exactly is Lost Hex?
That is an excellent question. I have no idea.
It's a planet where everything is hexagonal. Except not
I'm
everything,
but I remember we ran into some note from Sega where I think I called it a planetoid, and that got rejected. And it's not an island. I think they specified that. It's not a moon. It's not really a planet. It's
a space station.
I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it's probably never going to be explored or explained ever.
It's not like Little Planet, even though it's possibly a planet, but it's not a planet, so nobody knows. I'm just going to go with space station. I think it might actually be a space station. That's like the only thing it could possibly be if it can't be anything else. Next one comes from RedScarfUK. When writing the lyrics for Mina songs, were they written with a tune in mind? And if so, what sort of tunes?
I did have some kind of melody in my head insofar as to be able to write some kind of meter to it, which is really hard to convey effectively in a static, silent medium across multiple word balloons. So kudos to the art crew that had to handle any of those musical moments. But what my original tune would have been, I have no idea. It's been way too long. However, a fan by the screen name of Meelz, that's Meelz, did a cover of the very controversial Resistance song that Mina had. We'll have a link in the YouTube description to that, but he does a fantastic cover, reimagining, rendition, realization of that tune.
Excellent. Yeah, Meelz is someone who, in the early days, also submitted a cover of the BumbleKast theme song. So,
oh, there we go.
That's pretty awesome. Yep. Next one, though, comes from the Shadow Emperor. Ian, if you had gotten around to bringing back Bow Sparrow in the reboot universe, would he have retained his appearance and accent, or would he have changed to differentiate him more from Robbo the Hedge?
See, now I don't remember if we were going to bring back that group at all, or if we were just going to cut our losses, because it was anything pre-reboot that wasn't Sega directly or, SAT-AM based. It was off limits. And I think there might have been a loophole since Bo and Thorn were specifically designed to be legally distinct. I'm not sure if we would have. No, because I think we were going to explore that region focusing on Antoine's new side story, maybe? Question mark. I don't remember.
Something about him getting mentioned as the Avalon Freedom Fighters. I don't know exactly. That's just word I'm receiving.
Maybe. Again, it's been so long, and I haven't had to retain any of it because it's lost forever, and I can't touch it. And no, I'm not still bitter about that. Why do you ask? But I think within the context of if you could bring Bo back within the post-reboot universe, I think we would have kept him as he was, because he was visually distinct from any hedgehogs that may have predated him. And darn it, that way of speaking is fun. I don't care if it's hammy, it's delightful, and a hey nani if you disagree.
That would be, okay, not Avalon Freedom Fighters, but the Woodland Kingsmen, maybe. I don't know exactly. That's what I'm getting. These are the words I'm receiving, Ian. I am merely just relating them to you. I don't know if they mean anything or what. But
no, I'd have to dig through my old notes and see if I wrote down what I was planning. Because I wrote down a lot of things that I wanted to do, kind of pre-map ideas. And other stuff I didn't write down because I'll get to it eventually. I mean, this book's been going on for over 15 years. Nothing can kill it.
Still hurts. It does still hurt. Anyway, next question is from Jim J. Do you think there is more of a chance to see Blaze and Silver team up in a battle or on a mission in the IDW comics than there was in the Archie comics? Their game counterparts are said to work well together, but Blaze and Silver shared few words in the Archie comics.
The problem there is the same as it is now, is getting them a reason to be in the same place at the same time kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Blaze is supposed to be watching after the Soul Emeralds. She's supposed to be looking after her empire. She's supposed to be on her planet. Silver only comes back in time if something threatens his time period. So finding some crisis that's big enough to bring the two of them logically together in the same point is kind of tricky. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of hate the multiple timeline alternate reality things. Here is the proof in the pudding that I do not control things at Sega. Because if I did, If I was Grand King of all things Sonic, it would be one freaking planet, my dude. You'd have the Soul Empire over here. You'd have the United Federation over there. You'd have a bunch of islands over there. Oh, heck, let's throw in the Kingdom of Acorn over there. And Silver, I don't know, he gets prophetic visions of the future, but they're unclear ones, which lead to shenanigans. And everyone's on the same planet in the same stinking dimension, and I don't have to jump through hoops to make all the toys play together. They're just there. Nice and simple. Nice and straightforward.
Leave it to Sega to make things complicated. It's always that way. Sega, why you do this? Why you do this? They make everything complicated, Ian. Not just your life, but everybody's. For if you're a fan of Sega, you know the struggle. You know the struggle. And yet, we still love them. I do love Sega, even though they're very weird. They're very weird. Next one is from Big Sonic fan Patrick. Why were there extreme claims that, quote, the world fell during the last saga? I feel that it is misleading to claim the whole world fell to the Deadly Six, since there are bound to be places out there unaffected by what happened. As the comic has shown, places like Spiral Village were never affected by the events of Sonic Forces, even though 99% of the world would fall into the Eggman Empire. This suggests there are places that weren't affected by Dr. Eggman at all, in spite of his claims of ruling 99% of the world.
Number one, welcome to marketing. If the cover claimed most of the planet is in peril, but some parts are okay, that doesn't sell. That's convoluted. That isn't really engaging. Saying the whole world has fallen to ruin, that gets your attention. That's just how things are advertised and have been for ever.
Kills 99.99% of germs.
Number two, the world had fallen. Most of the planet was infected, if not in the process of being infected. There was no social structure left. There was no way to harvest crops, no way to transport goods, no way of organizing communities. If you were not infected yet, you were in some little cave in the middle of the boonies, and you would be infected within a small amount of time. Remember that in just 200 years, the entire planet was infected and gotten to the point where the virus had dissolved any of the animal life and was in the process of getting to the plant life. So, okay, yeah, technically there might have been a few holdouts scattered across the globe, but they were in no position to be considered comfortably surviving. There would be no coming back from this. The world had fallen. It's just it hadn't fallen 100% necessarily into the exact same levels of doom and despair. It all was bad, just perhaps different flavors of bad.
Yes. Sometimes it was Dr. Eggman bad. Sometimes it was Michael Jackson bad. Who knows?
I was going to do the hee, but my voice cracked.
I thought you were
Puberty's hard at 38.
Yeah. All right. This next question is a bit of a long one, but we'll go ahead and go through it here. It's from Akira T. Good afternoon, Flynn Sensei. Congrats on your contributions to Sega. As a balanced, well-rounded individual, I'm very concerned for Sega's future when it comes to what competition they're going up against for the next 60 years. It's a very specific amount of time, but sure. I feel that Sega is relying too much on their Sonic the Hedgehog IP to keep themselves afloat. It's only a matter of time before it all goes downhill from here. On the other hand, there's so much more room to innovate than the other creations Sega's made in the last 60 years that isn't related to Sonic. Shinobi, Streets of Rage, Virtua Fighter, Jet Set Radio, you name it. Even an all-new original property. Fact is, if they don't bring some new, unrealized life into these things soon enough, their ship will eventually sink. The Sonic IP on its own can only do so much, just as much as anything, and most of its potential has already been realized. Debatable, but sure. I want to make sure that the Sonic franchise will reach a satisfying conclusion so the fans who grew up from the first installment can die satisfied. And with Paramount Pictures' adaptation of Sonic the Hedgehog getting a sequel, I hope other Sega IPs, even if only just a handful of them, will receive the same Hollywood treatment soon enough, so that Marvel Studios won't hog the spotlight like they have in the last decade. Would you please mind sharing your thoughts on this matter? Thanks.
Okay. Number one, has Sega been around for 60 years?
Yeah, at least.
Really?
Yeah, they started as
Good.
as an American company in Hawaii called Service Games.
Oh my, I did not know that.
And then eventually moved to Japan, and now it's become a wholly Japanese owned and operated company. But yeah, originally it was an American company based in Hawaii.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, in that context, I was going to say, I'm not really concerned about the next 60 years. I'm just concerned about the, next decade.
I guess 60. I guess that would be they would say 60 years because Sega's been around for about 60 years. So yeah, okay. Now I see what they mean by saying next 60 years. I thought because I was thinking like, man, that's a really long but strangely specific period of time. But now I realize they mean since they've existed for 60 years. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, go on.
Sure, but I would imagine that the Sega, the service games of 60 years ago, is vastly different than the Sega of today.
Oh, absolutely. I think they did like
I'm-
gambling. They were a gambling machine company, which they kind of still are, but
And so I would imagine, thinking in the terms of another 60 years, the very identity of the company may shift entirely, which makes talking about farming and maintaining IPs kind of moot. But
yeah.
So there's a number of ways to tackle, I guess, the core of the question here. First would be you have to consider risk versus reward. You only have a finite amount of money and time and resources to create a game, which is incredibly expensive, especially if you're aiming for a AAA release, which at this point, one could argue is kind of a fool's errand, but that's another debate. With these limitations, you have to ask, are you going to pour them into a product that you know is going to sell and get you some revenue back? Or are you going to put it into a property that's been languishing since the 90s or the early aughts that won't necessarily have an audience and may not sell? Yes, there is a lot of Sonic material, but Sonic sells. And with a series that is legendary for its inconsistency in terms of quality, the fact that it continues to sell so reliably is incredibly impressive and speaks to the strength of the IP. Another aspect of it is it's not just Sonic. Sega seems to have kind of four pillars that they're relying on right now. There's Sonic, of course. Then there's the Yakuza series. There's the Total War series and the Football Manager series.
Right. Yep.
And I want to say there were numbers released publicly fairly recently that showed that Yakuza and Total War were the big moneymakers of those four.
Yep.
I may have that wrong. If you know what I'm talking about and you have those numbers, please comment in the YouTube video and educate me and correct me. But they have a small staple that they are using right now. It isn't just exclusively Sonic, but Sonic is the more traditional mascotty IP, I guess. We haven't seen a lot of the older stuff, sure, but to my third point, we are seeing a small resurgence. We've got the Panzer Dragoon remaster. We have Streets of Rage 4. We're getting the Alex Kidd remaster. Wonder Boy got a remaster, and I'm not familiar with the franchise, but it sounds like a character from that series is getting her own sequel, like a full-on original sequel after heaven knows how many years.
It's a sequel to Wonder Boy 4. Yeah, it's a follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah, Wonder Boy 4 had, what's her name? I forget her name, but yeah, she was the main character of that one, and they're doing a new follow-up for Wonder Boy 4 for that.
But that's not a remaster. That's an actual sequel.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
There you go. That's something, and that's an encouraging trend. I would like to see Sega bring up some of their old IPs in a AA kind of release. We don't need to have a full-on, fully realized, pure 3D, VR experience, motion control, blah, 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 Vector Man.
Right.
Give us a Mega Man 11-esque Vector Man revival.
Mm-hmm.
Or take any of the Altered Beast or Golden Axe games, and if not a very pretty remaster, give them a simple enough, downloadable version. Don't waste your time with a physical release because that's already kind of heading out the door. Give us a purely digital version. I know there was talk at one point of a Odin Sphere-esque Golden Axe, which I think never came to light, which breaks my heart. But, we've seen Streets of Rage do all right, I think. I have no idea what the numbers are.
Streets of Rage has done well, and it's very well received. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I would like to see a Streets of Rage 4 kind of in that same vein, a Golden Axe game. That would be super awesome.
But I think I'd like to see more of that, and I guess we're seeing something of a trend in that direction. But I don't think it's fair to say that it's just Sonic that they're working on. I just think that maybe Sonic gets the most attention within our circles.
Right. Yeah.
I have no interest whatsoever in Football Manager. I have no idea what it looks like or what its interface is, but it sells very well. And for fans of football, they will know it. So more power to them. Mm-hmm. I don't know the difference between Total War and Civilization or any of those games, but apparently it does very well within those circles. So kudos to them. I haven't played any of the Yakuzas, but I've heard they're pretty much a solid franchise. I don't think there's any standout bad game? ? Mm-hmm. So, this show really revolves around Sonic stuff for obvious reasons. So I think those who are listening to this show are maybe a little more zeroed in on that particular pillar, but there are multiple franchises that are getting attention, and I think they are starting to look at their older IPs and get things up and running. So I'm thinking that what you want, Akira, is already possibly in the works. We just don't know about all of it yet because these things take time.
Yeah. I'm on record on the show previously saying that Sega has left a lot of their IPs on the table, and they still have. They are doing a lot better lately, and I'm very pleased about that as someone who's just a general Sega fan, along with being a Sonic fan, of course. I enjoy most of Sega's IPs and really want to see all of them treated well and be, taken more advantage of, because Sega's got this huge stable of intellectual property that they could be using, and it seems like they leave a lot of it on the table only to end up reviving it long after they should have. There should have been a Streets of Rage game at least 10 years ago. They should have hired the people who did the Streets of Rage remake and made the Streets of Rage remake an official thing instead of shutting it down. But, things change, and Sega has become a little bit more accepting of fan-made stuff, so maybe something like that in the future could happen, but I don't know. It just kind of depends. There are a lot of things they could be doing better, but I'm glad to see them, at least paying a little bit more attention to the older stuff and understanding that their IPs do still have value and there's still an audience for them. So the other big thing for Sega right now is Persona.
Oh, okay. I thought that was an Atlas. Oh, they purchased Atlas.
They own Atlas. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Persona is pretty huge. So,
right.
And Phantasy Star Online 2's microtransactions apparently make up half of Sega's revenue. So that's very popular as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have an official report on that, but that's what I'm seeing here. That's the word I'm receiving. So that's huge. So it is good to see Phantasy Star still getting some love, even though I'd be more interested in seeing Sega maybe explore the older style of Phantasy Star games, and instead of the MMO. That would be neat, but that seems to be making them all the money. So
I want to say there was a Japanese or Korean exclusive mobile Phantasy Star game.
Yeah,
that took its cues towards the original quadrilogy.
Yeah.
I know nothing about that, really.
Yakuza is growing, so that's good. Been seeing a lot of love for Yakuza after like 8 entries in the series, or however many it's been before it finally really started to catch on in the West. Spread mainly by word of mouth, because Sega it didn't seem like Sega had much faith in the property as far as Western audiences getting onto it, but word of mouth seems to have really helped that series, so that's excellent. I'm glad to see that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really hoping that Sega does more with more of their IPs, like they've been doing for some of them. So I think it's really dumb that they shut down and they're not doing any more of the Sega Ages Switch releases. That's stupid. They have tons of older games they could reissue and things that have never been released on any sort of console before that could make their way over to there, and people would buy them. I know people would really like finally getting a digital version, at least, of Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder, which is the arcade sequel to Golden Axe that's never gotten a home port. But yeah, I don't know. Sega seems content on strangely leaving some of these things just to sit there and do nothing with them, and then sometimes they'll do like a cursory revival, and then they'll just let it lay dormant again for 10 years or so. I don't know. This is a common problem, I feel, with the game industry in general, really. For these companies have set few franchises they stick with, and that's it. They don't really venture outside of that. It's been a big thing, and I think it's starting to kind of wear on people to be getting the same franchises year in and year out, just sequels to them. And yeah, it's rough. Here's hoping Sega keeps on this trend of doing some good revivals, though. Some well-received revivals. Next up, Metal Skulkbane. Are Wispons slowly disappearing from the comic, aside from Whisper?
Not really. I mean, Wispons are used in battle, and we haven't seen a ton of people fighting. So, I mean, the main cast doesn't really use them, aside from Whisper, and most of the civilian population we've seen has been Zombots. So, no, they're around.
They're there. Watching. Waiting. Breezy is up next. Not Breezy the Hedgehog, just Breezy. In Sonic 4, it's revealed that Metal Sonic was abandoned on Little Planet Surface. Throughout the entire time period between the events of Sonic CD and Episode Metal, he was supposedly out of commission. This would contradict his appearances in Sonic the Fighters R, Triple Trouble, and Knuckles Chaotix, which were all initially believed to take place after the main classics, but before the cast grew into their modern looks, of which Tails and Sonic sport by the time of Sonic 4. Fans have speculated that these games take place somewhere within the Mania Neo-Classic timeline, instead, to avoid discarding them as non-canon completely, though I doubt Sega would have properly thought that through. But that would imply the main modern versions of Sonic and Friends never experienced the events of those games / met certain characters. What are your thoughts on this dilemma, and how would you rectify it? I think we went through. Ian, stop before you kill your ability to talk and to live. Ian, no. I think we went through this before. You would just consolidate everything and say screw your multiple worlds crap and timelines and universes and just put them all on the same Earth.
Breezy, please understand I'm not laughing at you. I am laughing at the enormity of the dilemma you placed before me. And yeah. Sadly, as someone who has spent their entire career trying to make a solid narrative out of everything, I have to admit it's not possible. You cannot take everything that is presented, which never had an overarching cohesive narrative to it, and make all the pieces fit. Especially when some of those pieces, like Chaotix, are considered canon at some point and not at others. Like right now, my understanding is that Knuckles Chaotix just isn't. That the Chaotix, as of Heroes, are that version. That there is no classic Chaotix. That they debuted in Heroes. And that's the official line until it changes. So there is no proper way to address it. Like classic Metal Sonic, the little roly-poly version, was defeated on Little Planet. But modern Metal Sonic is who wakes up in Episode Metal. How did he receive that visual upgrade between... It doesn't work. It can't work. So in instances like that, I fall back on Aaron Weber's almost soothing mantra of everything is canon. Just some of the stuff you're going to have to accept doesn't fit, and you got to move forward. I mean, again, I have spent my career trying to look back at all these games and finding a way to thread them together neatly and concisely, and eventually it's not worth the effort. You have to look at what all came before, all the experimental ideas, the lack of any general direction to it, and just accept that's a very bumpy road. Let's pave the road going forward and make sure what comes from here on out solid and consistent and better, and look back at what came before and went, let's not repeat those mistakes. There is no elegant solution to it. So just accept that it is what it is and move forward.
If everything is canon, then nothing is canon. Ho ho. Those are some deep words. Because I said they are. They're not deep. They don't matter. Don't read into that. J.A. is up next. Will the warp Topaz come back at some point? I know it seems like it blew up at the end of issue 29, but I can't imagine Ian and Evan not seeing any more storytelling potential with a reality warping stone.
So, fun fact. In the original pitch for the Metal Virus Saga, I specified the warp Topaz would be destroyed at the end. Going off of my experience with getting things approved with Archie Sonic, if we introduced a new magical gemstone or MacGuffin or whatever, it would be met with resistance. So my thinking was by introducing it early on with a plan to destroy it, Sega would understand that there was a concise story arc for the gem, that it would be used for its singular purpose and then removed from the narrative, which usually got things approved a little easier back in the day. Fast forward to now, and we actually received a request from Sega to keep it intact, to not show it destroyed. For what reason? I can only speculate. But I find it interesting that they said, don't break the warp Topaz. So, yes, it could conceivably show up again in the comic. And maybe somewhere else. I honestly don't know. And that's kind of exciting.
Fascinating.
Like, don't read too much into that. This is not a hashtag knowing smile moment. I literally have no idea why they want it around. But it is canonically intact just somewhere.
I'm seeing in the chat, Godzilla saying, the Genesis Gauntlet.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. That's a fan idea. I can't use that one, but, man, that's a good one.
Warp Topaz, Chaos Emerald, Soul Emerald, Precious Stone, Phantom Ruby,
Time Stone. Wait, was Sonic
Time
CD
Stone.
count? I mean, you could count it. Might as well.
And Lee says Jeweled Scepter. If you took one of the little thingies out of that, yeah, it's 7.
Whew.
That's the magic number.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I don't just what we need, a snapping Eggman.
But see, the Chaos Emerald, the sizes vary so much, but they're still pretty big gems. You'd have to have a very, very big gauntlet for that to plug into. Like something the size of a Eggman mecha. So a giant Eggman mecha with the literal power of gods in one hand. I'm not lead writer anymore, so I have got to put that in my pocket and maybe think of it in a year or two. I don't know. Why do you do this to me? Ah!
And then you got to pay royalties for that idea. Yeah. And finally, our last question, ironically, is from TBF. What motivates you to keep going?
Oh, a mixture of fear and spite, I suppose.
Yeah. Really, I think that's the case for everybody.
Fear in that there are so many stories I want to tell, and once I finally shuffle off this mortal coil, I want to be remembered as something more than just the Sonic guy, if I'm remembered at all. So I want to put stuff out there. I want to create so that I have something that endures. And as life has taught us in so many ways repeatedly, fate is fickle and unkind. So there's always that kind of sword of Damocles over my head of, you never know what's coming. You need to do.
Yeah.
Which is very motivating sometimes. It's also paralyzing in others, but motivating more often than not. And spite in that there are folks out there who have made it very clear that they would delight in my failure. And I want to succeed just to spite them, because I know that ticks them off, and that makes me happy. Every attempt to tear me down and dissuade me only makes me want to do more.
Only makes you stronger.
Because, yeah. I mean, it's certainly demoralizing every now and again. I'm not going to lie. I'm human. But every now and again, I will see that one ignorant, hateful tweet. And my reaction is, screw you, buddy. I'm going to make something today. So thank you for being awful, so I can turn something positive out of it.
Success really is 90% spite. And it's good.
Is that a quote?
Good. That's the title of a book, apparently, by Jane Z that I'm seeing in here. Yeah.
That's a good title. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Spite is very powerful. It's a very powerful motivator. So, not gonna lie, it's a big one.
That's all really negative. Let's put another
being able to
facet on it.
Being able to eat is also a good motivator. Food
is
a good motivator. It's delicious.
And there's a degree of joy to be had from creating something that you want to create and seeing it done. And furthermore, singing the joy it brings to other people. You know?
Yeah.
Even if the Metal Virus Saga is not the best example of bringing joy, it was still a storyline that was very much off the beaten path. It was something that I knew Sonic fans would not expect and would not be able to predict how it was going for the most part. So seeing their reactions of getting something new and different and engaging, even if it was terrifying and depressing sometimes, that was nice. Mm-hmm. To see people really getting engaged and attached to a story. So, that's another reason to keep going, is to produce something that others will enjoy, or at the very least something that you will enjoy, and say that I did that. Yeah. I made this.
Yeah, but it's funny because I remember early on we were getting questions about, are you going to return to the slow burn style of storytelling? Are you going to tell more like darker or serious stories? And the whole time you probably just had the Metal Virus Saga sitting in your back pocket like, oh, you have no idea. But you didn't say anything. You really kept that one on the down low. I like that one. You did that. That was pretty awesome. So yeah, people were like, you just, this is all just light and fluffy. This IDW Sonic, it's just light and fluffy, and you're just like, oh boy. So good job on that one.
Coming off of the Archie stuff, which was much more grand, epic, sweeping arc stuff.
Yeah.
With season 1 of IDW, I did really want to do something more action, shonen derived, something that is high energy and fast paced to, grab you and get you going, and, not spend a few years world building and hope the book doesn't get canceled before you can realize it.
Mm-hmm. Went through that once already.
And then, IDW showed that it had legs, and we have a lot of support. So, all right, now let's graduate into something a little more overarching. And we got that. And we've done that now. We're wrapping it up pretty soon. And Evan's going to do her take on the series. I get to contribute here and there, which is nice. But she's got her own vision for, I guess, what we'll call season 3, for lack of a better term. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Alrighty. Well, we may be motivated to keep going, but that's it for this episode of the BumbleKast. Ian, before we get going, should we give a shout out to all the patrons who helped make this show possible?
Please do.
Alrighty. Well, here we go. Daniel H., Salute Your Cat, Robotnik Holmes, Rachel W., Invade Turbo Tunis, Scorched Freedom, Jonathan D., a.k.a. Ink Pants, Sony, Blue Title Gamer, Koopaling Crew, Andrew D., Papatree Populus, Matthew S., a.k.a. Scruffy Met, Chris A., John B., Diane W., Jennifer R., Torchbound, Jennifer H., Lisa M., Godzilla, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Lauren W., Owen B., Preston M., Yami M., Tik Tik, Justin S., Silly String, Tucaro, Overthinking Films, Don B., John M., Chauvel, Mike B., Duiz Diz Din, Samuel P., Alex P., Justin G., Dave M., Sam Cybercat, and Final Neil. Yeah, reading names is hard. I have a hard enough time with names as it is. I don't need Patreon helping to make it even worse.
But we soldier through it because we need to thank every one of you for being so awesome.
We really do. We really do. Thank you, everybody who supports us and submits questions and everything else. You're the ones who keeps the show going, so thank you.
But now that the show is done, Kyle, where can they find you on the wide world of the web?
You can find me over at Twitter at KyleJCRB, where you can find me posting snarky things that aren't very funny, but hey, they're there. Maybe you'll have a good laugh, or at least a minor chuckle. And you can also find me over at kngi.org, where you can find archived episodes of the BumbleKast in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure on any MP3 player device. I haven't heard from anybody saying that they play this show using MP3. They listen to the show using MP3 CDs. But if you do, let me know, because you're cool and I like you. And of course, you can listen to my other show, Nitro Game Injection, over there as well. You can listen to it streaming live on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can catch all the archived episodes over there any time of the day, anytime. Where can the people find you, Ian?
You can follow me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. You can find my personal website at bumbleking.com. And you can follow my free webcomic Drogoon at drogoon.com. That's DROGUNE.com.
And don't forget, you can also follow the show on Twitter at BumbleKast. Email us at bumblecast@yahoo.com. And listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, our YouTube channel, and of course, over at kngi.org.
You can help support us and the show by heading over to the Bumble store. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble store, where a variety of objects can be plastered with a variety of BumbleKast-related imagery.
Don't forget to also check out the BumbleKast live streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/BumbleKastGaming. We're usually streaming on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and sometimes other times random throughout the week. So give us a follow over there, and maybe keep an eye on Twitter also for announcements. It just kind of depends. Sometimes we do things other times other than just Sundays, but we usually try to keep to the Sunday schedule for sure. Be sure to keep an eye out.
All right, for now, this wraps us up for this week of the BumbleKast. Do we have enough questions to do another double dose next week, Kyle?
We very well could. Especially if the priority Q&As keep coming in. So keep sending in those questions, and maybe we'll keep answering them. You'll see. You'll just have to tune in and find out.
One way or the other, we'll see you next Monday. Take care, everybody.
Yep. See you later. Hello, Ian.
I am back.
Cool. Welcome back.
Did you miss me?
Maybe a little bit. Yes, and Scruffy Matt says that they overheard you. And,
I see.
You and Aaliyah plotting in the background.
We are deploying troops to handle that right now.
Okay, good. Good to know. Where did you get troops from?
Costco.
Ah. Yeah, I mean, they really do sell everything.
The 7th Kirkland Battalion.
Yeah. Yes. They're not the greatest soldiers, but they do what they need to do.
They do everything in bulk, including pile bodies.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Mass graves indeed. Bring it on.
Funny side story. In Fire Emblem Awakening, the big bad of the whole series is this demonic dragon named Grima. Okay?
Sure.
So, years ago, I'm checking out at Costco, and the fella's name tag reads Grima.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going, keep a straight face, don't nerd out. The guy, you don't know this man. He's perfectly nice, leave him alone. And months later, I guess they fixed it, and they just printed it out wrong. Same gentleman, but now it was clearly spelled Gurma. And it's like, I'm glad I didn't say anything.
Yeah, that could have been real awkward.
Hi there, person who doesn't know me from anyone and is just trying to get through the day. Did you know you share the name with a fictional demonic dragon?
Funny story. Oh, boy. And Scorched Freedom. I hate you, Patreon. Why you do this? Why you make the names? Why you truncate names on the site? This is not... I need to see the whole name. Scorched Friend. Anyway. Scorched Freedom. I almost said friend again. Scorched Free... Okay, let's just start over. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. Hello, person who is not Ian. Yeah, that's me. Hello, person who is not the draw of this show.